All right, it's raining outside. I thought I'd do another video. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I see this a lot of forums. JPEG versus RAW, and RAW is king, and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? I've been shooting for a number of years. I shoot in JPEG the majority of the time. And I think if you listen to me and maybe you have the same style of shooting that I do, you might be shooting, change your shooting style too. And I didn't say 100% of the time in JPEG. So I do shoot in RAW when it's needed. It's not always needed. So I suggest you go out here and do these tests. You've probably seen all these tests on the forums, and I'll tell you in a second why those tests are wrong. My style of shooting, I do a very, not a lot of editing. I like to keep it natural, just don't like to do a lot of effects and stuff like that, so it works for me. And when you're, let me start off by saying when you're throwing, you shoot hundreds of pictures, say you don't edit for a week. You throw all these raw, you're shooting in RAW, you throw all these RAW files into Lightroom. You probably have already noticed how long that takes for those to upload and to even view them, and then you go to edit them and render them out. That is a ton of time compared to JPEG. If you do the JPEGs, it's just a lot quicker. And then if you have that subtle, very not a lot of editing, and you get your exposure right, the JPEG's going to look pretty much exactly the same. If you do these tests, you're not going to notice a difference. So if you need that RAW file, you'll know if after you've shot for RAW for a while. I've shot RAW for a number of years before I use this technique. Then you'll know, you'll be able to look at that scene and say, hey, my JPEG's not going to cut it for this. It's too bright here, and the dynamic range is, there's darks down here, and I'm going to need something to pull back those highlights or pull up those shadows a little bit more than what my JPEG can do. But if you, the 80–90% of your scenes are, you know, don't have a lot going on, and you know, hey, this is going to look fine the way it is in JPEG. It's just knowing your gear and knowing your editor and knowing yourself of how you like to edit photos. That's the main thing. If you like to shoot in RAW, keep shooting on RAW. But listen to me on this. So here's the test you do. You go and shoot for a week. So you're shooting in RAW, and you probably already hit thumbs down because you're the RAW defender. But go out there and shoot RAW plus JPEG, and when you're shooting your JPEG, shoot in neutral picture style. Neutral. So that will make it completely flat. So throw your different shots, your RAW and your JPEG, into your editor and edit them the way you want, and go back and look at them and say, hey, this shot, it looks damn good. It looks pretty much the same. There's no difference here. And you'll notice that a lot of the time. And then you'll say, oh, on that shot I need to take the shadows up a little bit more. So that gets you the knowledge you need when you're out there in the field. If I have a shot, like I said, look at the scene and you're just like, oh, well, it's too dark, I'll shoot this one in RAW. And you flip over to RAW. It will save you tons and tons of time on your computer. And then you're thinking, oh, everybody says, well, I shoot in RAW because it makes me professional, they think somehow. Well, guess what? All those guys on the sideline of the football game shooting away, and the newspaper guys, they're shooting in JPEG. They're professionals, and you aren't. So just think about that. Another reason you might be shooting in RAW is because you're missing your exposure. Well, you might need to work on your technique, not RAW versus JPEG. Work on that exposure. Maybe you should try a different method. I have a video on how to get exposure right every time. It works for me, and it works for most people if you try it out. I'll put a link to the description below, and you could take a look at it and see if that works for you. But do a test, shoot for a week, RAW versus JPEG, and throw them into your editor and see how much faster it is. Those CR2 Canon files or whatever are just, they take forever to upload and flip through. Even if you have the fastest computer, it's just, that's the way it is in Lightroom. So with that said, I shoot Pentax. Now, I used to shoot Canon, but now I shoot Pentax. Pentax has a great thing in here. If you watch this video and you're like, well, I still like RAW, Pentax has something to speed that up. They actually have DNG files. You can make your RAW files DNG. So it makes them faster. I hadn't put them side by side, but I just know from me using Canon before how much faster these are. These DNG files are faster to upload and edit and render out because it's the digital negative file. It's so it's not somebody else's codec going straight in there to Adobe. So you might want to consider that. I've got plenty of reviews on these cameras and lenses. They make top quality stuff. I'm telling you, a lot better than most of the Canon stuff out there. So just take a look at it if you haven't, Pentax. Enough said. Shoot RAW if you like, shoot JPEG, whatever. Oh, I was going to tell you why on the forums they're screwing up, and on the YouTube things they're saying, hey, you can't get what you want. The camera's deciding everything when you're not shooting in RAW. You get your file and it's like, hey, they make all these picture styles. I pretty much know exactly what's coming out of my camera when I shoot with the picture styles. It's like people don't get in there and look in their camera. So there's all these different picture styles. You take that picture style with your JPEG, I shoot, like I said, in natural or neutral picture style. So everything's flattened out. When I throw it in my editor, it's flattened out just kind of like your RAW file. So very subtle editing is all I need. So I know a lot of times I'll just add just a touch of saturation, or bring the highlights down and just normal stuff. But anyway, when you see these tests that people have done, they're like, you could see, like Canon, for instance, you could see the JPEG is a little bit sharper than this RAW file. And it's like, hey, dumbass, you're using the standard picture style. If you went in there and looked at the standard picture style, you would see that, what? The little sharpness is turned up there. So it's like, that's why it's a little sharper. Maybe you should have shot in the neutral picture style where everything's level. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for watching. Listen to me ramble on. I swear JPEG it's got a bad rap. It's pretty good. Nowadays, if you hadn't done tests in a while, the last time you did a test like this was 8 years ago. You said, oh, well, I've done these tests before. Well, try it again. The cameras and the editing software is a lot better than it used to be. So technology moves forward. So sometimes you have to go back and test stuff that you hadn't tested in years. So I do that when I get each of my cameras. I test out the different JPEGs versus RAW. So thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll have another video like this that you could probably hit thumbs down on or thumbs up. But yeah, my next video I think I'm going to do is on watermarks and why use them. Thanks for watching.